Today I'm going to install an aftermarket air intake system on my Jeep Wrangler. It's a 2014 Rubicon. It's got a 3.6 Penster engine in it. So the main reason I decided to do this is to get a little bit more aggressive note out of the engine. Right now the Penster is a little bit muted. I want to get a little bit louder and aggressive note. I don't want to have the droning on the highway. So hopefully this is a small change that'll just gives me that little extra, good sound out of the engine. So the system I'm going with is the Banks system. In addition to sort of the more aggressive note, they also claim there's some performance benefits. So I'll let you know what my experience of that is. The manufacturer says in this case that there's an additional 8 horsepower. We'll see if there's any perceived horsepower gains. Also, they claim improved fuel efficiency. So we'll see if that happens. Right now I'm getting probably about 14.1 liters per 100 kilometers on the highway, probably about 14.4 in the city. So I'll show you the before and after, Jeep computer, see what it says, see if there's any difference, and we'll also listen to the sound before and after the installation, and I'll take you through my install experience. And if you decide to do something similar, then hopefully this video helps you out with that. Before the intake upgrade, the Jeep computer is showing 14.1 liters per 100 kilometers. We'll see if the upgrade makes any change. So here's everything that comes with the kit. So we've got the oiled filter. This is the oiled filter kit. We've got the cold box or the shielding. We've got the connecting tubing that'll connect to our throttle body, and we've got the hardware and some instructions. All right, so the first step we want to do is grab the cover of the engine and just pop that right off. Pops off pretty easily. All right, now that we've got the cover off, we'll have to remove the old system and make room for the new system that we're putting in. So you have to do a couple things here. So number one, we have to remove these clamps. They just pop right back. So there's 2 on this side over here, and there's 1 on either side of the box itself. We also need to remove a couple clamps. So we got a clamp over here. It's a flathead. We'll just have to loosen that up. And we've also got another one on the other side. So there's another one joining to the throttle body right there. So now that's another flathead. There are a couple hoses we have to disconnect as well. So we've got one here, we'll have to slip that off. And down here we also have a cold air sensor. So we'll have to disconnect that before we remove the actual pipe itself. We also have to remove these 2 bolts over here, and that'll free up the pipe from the body of the Jeep, and also will enable us to get the hose out of the way. Alright, so let's remove these 2 bolts. I started this one already. They take a 10mm socket, so they come right out. The bolts are not very tight. You can almost get them. Oops. You can almost get them out by hand. I'm not sure that's just how they were tightened, or they were just trying to come loose on my Jeep here. But as you can see, they come out pretty easily. Okay, so we'll have to hang on to those because we'll reuse them for later on. So the next thing we want to do here is just loosen up these clamps. Take a flathead screw and just loosen them up a little bit. They're pretty easy to loosen up, not very hard. So there's one there, and there's another one on the throttle side, which is this guy over here. So I'm not sure if we can see that very well, but there's that screw. And we'll loosen that up. Alright, so we got to disconnect the breather hose from the box. This is a bit of a pain in the butt, but wiggle it a little bit and it does come right off. So there's the hose. Then we've got to unclip these clips. Again, there's 4 of them. There's one over here. There should be one on the other side. There it goes, and one on this side. Just gotta be careful. Alright, so I've got the tube freed up here. So what happens here is there is just a little knob over here. It's hard to see, but Maybe I'll move this around a little bit. So hopefully you can see there's a little knob down here. You just gotta press that down. Once you press it down, the cable just snaps right out and the sensor stays in the tube. We'll have to take that out later and put it into the new tube. Just worth noting too, that's what the sensor looks like inside the OEM tube. So we'll have to make sure that when we put it back into the Banks tube, that it's positioned in the same way. Alright, so let's pop out the OEM box. So top cover just pops right off. Alright, we have that. There's the OEM filter. And this whole thing should just pop right out. There we go. And it's out. So these clips are a bit of a pain in the butt to put on, but once the bolt goes through, it's handy to have a pair of pliers and just to help snap them on. So you can get them started by hand, that's not too bad. There we go, just make sure they're nice and snug. And then you can just grab a pair of pliers here and just push them right on. They snap right on. So there's another one. And we've got one more to do. So the last bolt, get it situated, snaps in pretty well. It's got a good seating position so you can tell it's in the right spot. Get the clip started and just save your fingers and just use the pliers to snap them right on, and there goes the last one. Alright, so when joining the filter and the intake tube, one thing to look for is there's a little arrow on the intake tube where the seam is. So that should go and line up with the filter. There are these two little marks here. So when this is joined together and the arrow and the seams line up, the flatter side of the filter should be facing the front and the back, and the steeper curved side should be pointing up and down. Once you have the filter and the intake tube lined up and joined together in the box, the next step is to take a flathead screwdriver and just tighten the clamp to make sure that the filter doesn't come off the intake tube. So the next step is to remove the temperature sensor from the OEM intake tube. So it's got a little tab that sticks out, and there is a little block. So what we have to do actually is try to turn it counterclockwise. So we've got to lift that up a little bit and give it a twist, and hopefully that makes it pop right out. Once we've got the filter clamped in there, we want to get this little grommet that's provided with the kit. I'm going to put it right in here, and that's where the temperature sensor is going to mount. So it's got a little groove in it, so it should hopefully snap right in. Alright, so after quite a bit of struggle, we finally have the air sensor inserted in the tube and seated properly in the grommet. I would say by far this is the most difficult part of the installation. Is you have to have a lot of patience, take your time, because that sensor is pretty delicate. So my problem that I had was that as I was putting the sensor into the grommet was being pushed into the tube, and I couldn't get the sensor to seat properly in the grommet in the tube. So I ended up using a little bit of dish soap, and just being very careful not to get any of the dish soap on the sensor itself. Alright, so now we're ready to put the Banks whole system into the Jeep. So first thing we want to do is find that sensor cable and make sure we get that connected. Just sit everything down here so everything reaches. Alright, now that we've got the everything put together, we just have to tighten the tube and the throttle body, and we should be good to go. And now this one over here. Make sure it's still snug. Alright, so we're just installing the clips for the radiator hose. And you're reusing the existing bolts. These are plastic pieces, so we just want to be a little bit careful of them, not to over tighten them here. And then we're just going to snap the hose in, make sure it doesn't wander around. And that's it. It's ready to go.